Okay.
Blessings, everyone. It's Jewels and Liane, and this is Becoming Bioquantum. And, becoming bioquantum isn't always easy. One of our sayings that we kind of return to over and over again is to become comfortable in the uncomfortable. And that's really easy to say when we're in a good space where we want to be uncomfortable, because we know that in those moments that we're truly living outside of programming. But there are times when we feel uncomfortable because we are so in our programming that we forget what it is to be in the field, or we're in between programming in the field. And what I mean by that is the frequency of DMT, that we're just completely lost and it doesn't always feel good. So I'm going to let you take over, Leanne.
Yeah, see, this is what happens to me when I'm in the in between. I am definitely there right now, and sometimes I'm looking for my words. I feel really uncomfortable. There's no sense of belonging. You feel really lost. What do you believe in? It's you start questioning everything, then you're in your head, and then you move into the frequency and you're back and forth. And it's a really uncomfortable place to be. And this is where you rely on friends and support from people that you trust to help guide you through it. And I can attest that one of the things that, other than frequency and having the tools, thank goodness for my coding card and my oils, honestly. But what's helping me work through the programming is just trusting that everything is playing out exactly as it's supposed to, and trying to get comfortable with that. So one thing I always go back to, and maybe Jules, you can help steer this, is what is destiny and how does this all play out? And yeah, I'm just gonna let you take over because I'm in between right now.
I love it. Well, this is one of those places where you take what resonates, because this is going to feel a little uncomfortable for some people, but for me, in the space that I live in, is that there really is no such thing as free will, and that our illusion that our choices are creating our reality is in a way true, because the choices that we're making are programmed, unless we are living through the intelligence of 963. So really listen to what I just said. Our choices are a program unless we are the intelligence of source. And so because we're not the intelligence of source, are not existing in that space consciously, then everything that we're experiencing is a program. And because of that, everything that we're experiencing is the ego thinking that it actually has a choice. And that's kind of crazy to think about, but because we are always following the intelligence, because we're not at that frequency. And what's the point of that? Well, if we can kind of step back and know that there are no wrong choices, it's just the ego's perception of right and wrong. Because anytime that we're naming something as good and bad, we know that we're in the ego and that we are identifying in a program. And it doesn't mean that we go and do things that are wrong and we're like, oh, well, we have this. It's like, okay, like let's step back and actually be conscious human beings here, right? Where you are right now in the reality that you're experiencing is an illusion of a program that you're playing out. If we remember that, and then we relax in to knowing that we are here to become bioquantum. We are here to become the intelligence. And as long as our focus is attuning to that frequency, and with whatever tools that we have in every given moment, that we are surrendering to that frequency and choosing it over anything else, we can't fail. There is no right and wrong. That is the place where, I mean, talk about feeling free. That is the most intelligent thing that there is. It is the most empowering place that we all have within us. It's literally stored inside of us. And then we continue to turn that on over and over and over again. And then we choose to consciously attune to it with our intuitive powers. We're always shifting our focus out of our programming and into the intelligence, out of our programming and into the intelligence. And when we are in a chemical response, or we're feeling fear, or we're feeling lost, and we have no identity and we don't know what we're doing, I don't know what I believe, honestly, good. Because then at least you're not identifying in your programming. I would rather be like, I don't know, than to say I know.
I love that you said all that. It's actually bringing me to the book that I'm reading now that I know you read years ago, is by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. Because basically what you're saying is just that. It's stepping away from ego, going into the now is that the intelligence. It's the field, and from in his language. But the tools that you're saying, I love that you also said it's practice. Just keep doing it over and over and over until you self-actualize in it. And it's true, like even just talking about it, I can tap into it all of a sudden, like my body relaxes. And it is just a practice. And that we just don't know how. How would you, what would be one first step for somebody who doesn't understand this and doesn't know how to tap into that?
So I'm going to say, I can remember like years ago that one of the most empowering things that we can do is to get really, 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 really good at using intuition, our intuitive powers. And there's a reason for that. So there's a lot of people that consider themselves empaths or whatever it is. But the reason is that you're immediately stepping out of your five senses, because your five senses are basically primal, right? And so it's like that gateway of the in between. So if there was something that you want to just start doing right now to help turn on your quantum body and to start living outside of your programming, learn how to key in your intuition and get really, really good at it. Pick one. I don't even care. It doesn't even have to be like, we have a whole sequence where you find your level 1 intuitive power, and there's 3 levels. Like, don't even worry about that right now. Whatever one you're really good at, pick that one and get awesome at it. Because then when you're really good at it, just in your daily life, and you're always using it, when you're in a chemical response, it's going to be a lot easier to call on an intuitive power so that you can turn on that intelligence and then use that power. It's called a power for a reason, so that you can move outside of your programming into the intelligence. There's things that we can do every single day to get better at that. I mean, superpowers are real. Like, intuition is a superpower. And when we take it all the way, we're literally see before we see, we hear before we hear, we know before we know. That's how powerful we are. We are the most advanced technology there is. We're not using it. We're using 10 to 12% of our potential. And why are we keep focusing on that? Like, let's start turning on the other space and find freedom and empowerment in that. And you know what? That isn't going to be out there.
Everything's happening for us.
But I feel like that's the go-to, is get really good at that.
Well, I love that. So intuitive powers and I keep hearing I'm not my mind. I'm not my thoughts. Intuitive powers and trusting that everything's happening for us.
I love that. Also, just this is just coming to me when we're in our programming so deeply, especially if we're in a chemical response and we're experiencing the primal body, the primal brain, we want to move into the conscious part of our mind, even if it's enough to know I'm in my primal mind, right?
Mhm.
That's a step up than just reacting from the chemicals. And one of the best ways to do that is to literally make yourself think. So it would be something where I used to, when my girls were really little and they would be in their primal body, I would say, I would make them do things, right? So I'd have them, okay, go up into your room, take your froggy, and then go put it in in Sage's room, take her pillow, bring it downstairs, put it on the couch. Like, I would like make them do things so they had to think about what they were doing. And by the time they had done a little rotation of me telling them to do all these things, they were in their conscious mind, and you could actually have a conversation with them. Well, we're no different. Is that
Yeah.
we can like force ourselves to just go do things. Usually within 5 to 10 minutes, the chemical is really kind of winding down. And if we haven't spiraled with it into a big story and we're occupying our brain to do something conscious, which isn't always easy when we're in primal, right? It's actually really hard to do that, but we all can do it. But we're actually rewiring the brain when we do that. We're moving into the conscious part of our brain and we're letting the chemical mellow out, and then we can actually create a conscious choice. And even if that conscious choice is to not go down the rabbit hole, instead I'm going to go take a shower now, I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to call a friend, whatever it is, but you're choosing not to go into the story and you're choosing something new.
I love that. The most random thing just came to mind. Describe how your left toe feels compared to your right pinky. It's just so random.
I love that. You'll have to use that one on your girls next time.
Oh, but it does take you outside of the loop of traditional thinking. And I think that's the secret is so that it does give your body time to center itself and then align yourself with something that's high vibing.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, there's so many different avenues in just doing something that simple that you're doing. And really, when it all comes down to it, you're you're showing your body, and your mind at the same time that it's more than primal. It's more than programming. And once you get to the peak of that consciousness, then, oh my gosh, it's like, well, now I have the ability, if for those of you that know what we teach, the levels of consciousness, you really have the ability to move into the fourth level of consciousness at that point if you want to. And yes, it takes practice, but there's nothing keeping you from getting there. I mean,
Yeah, and if anything,
nothing.
the static is teaching us because I have been through hard times and in the intelligence, it totally feels doable. And the reality is that we do drop again and there's just information there and it's okay. So I'm here to tell everybody it's okay.
It's okay. That is part of becoming bioquantum, is that we're gonna fluctuate. I mean, we say you fluctuate through those 5 levels of consciousness for a reason. Like, you're gonna go unconscious again, and then you're gonna wake up, and then you're gonna have the choice, and then you know what, you're gonna do it over and over and over and over again, all while that every time that you're having the awareness of that shift, you're turning on that frequency of 963 and you're turning it up and turning it up and turning it up. And then all of a sudden, your body is starting to hold a higher and higher frequency. And then the environment that your consciousness is starting to go to a higher frequency. And there are going to be times where the ego is going to freak out about that because it
Right.
doesn't know who it is and a frequency that has an intelligence outside of its programmed reality. It makes perfect sense. And what our experience of that is our freak out moments where we feel lost. We question everything like, what the heck am I doing? Why? How did I get here? And honestly, I feel like it's a really good sign that you just moved into a really high frequency. So much so that the rest of you is literally shorting out because it doesn't know how to exist there.
Right. Right. And kudos to all the people who are brave enough to acknowledge the truth of where they're at. Because that's pretty brave as far as I'm concerned. So thank you, Jules, for being my light and for the journey. This is what it's all about, people. It's the journey, and it does go up and down and it fluctuates because we are energy that fluctuates in vibration. And this is stepping into our mastery because you're all masters.
Absolutely. And that just gave me chills too. There's just one other thing that is coming in. So I'm just going to go ahead and share it. When we want to have it all figured out, right, in order to feel safe, is the perfect opportunity to just step back and be like, you know what? I can feel that all the way out here would be where I would feel safe. Right? If you really think about it, it's like, okay, I want this and this and this and all these steps to line up. And then this is going to be the destination. And that's where I'm going to feel safe. Knowing that if we're thinking that we just limited ourselves to that experience. And if we can just step back and be like, okay, let's just say that is what it is, but I'm not there right now. So what is my next right step? Like, what can I do right now that I can take an action step towards who I'm becoming? And even if it's just using your imagination at first, just actively participate in focusing on who you're becoming. Because when we think about it and it's all in the head and it's all in the programs and we're trying to figure it all out, it can feel really overwhelming. But when we just take that next right action step and then we do it again, and then we do it again, and then we do it again, and then synchronicities start to open up, and then that intelligence starts to come in, and then we're starting to get breadcrumbs instead of having to focus on what we think the next step is. Then all of a sudden we're given the next left step and we know what it feels like to live there. Every single one of us has the opportunity in each moment to choose, am I going to focus on who I'm becoming, or am I going to focus on trying to figure it all out?
Mic drop. Boom. Honestly,
Yeah.
as you're speaking, if there's anything that I want anybody to really pay attention to is what was just said there, because it does take you immediately out of your programming. It takes you out of the past that doesn't exist at all. And the next right step, using your imagination, is positive momentum. It's right there. It's just shifting in frequency in the most uplifted way. And it's empowered action. So yes, take that.
All right. Let's all focus on who we're becoming, take that next right step, and become bioquantum, because that's what we're here to do. We love you guys.